Hey guys, welcome back for another video. What we're going to be doing today is we are going to be reacting to the new AP poll that just came out for week 6 of the 2024 college football season. We're going to go over all the new rankings and try to see if we think every team fell where we thought they should, if they should be higher, lower, or who should be in the top 25. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. If you have any comments about this or anything else, drop them below and I will make sure to respond. Every week we go over every NFL game. We go over every single college football game. We break down the money lines, spreads, the over-unders. We react to everything. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed so you can follow along with us. Guys, I'm actually kind of sorry if this video is a little weird. I'm actually recording it from the lobby of my hotel right now, so the sound might be a little off, but I'm trying to do the best that I can. Sorry about that. So let's go ahead and get things started. Looking at the top 25 for the AP poll came down. We actually have a new number 1 team kicking things off. Number 1, Alabama, 40 first place votes coming in 4-0. They had 40 votes. They moved up 3 spots. They moved from 4 all the way to 1 when they beat Georgia. Do I think they should be number 1? So they beat Georgia 41-34. I have no issue with them being number 1. I don't think Texas did anything, though, to fall from 2. I personally would have moved Bama up to 2. Solid win. But they beat the number 2 team. They didn't beat the number 1 team, so have them flip with Georgia, move them number 2. Texas hasn't done anything to fall. Bama had that massive lead, and they gave it up. That's a knock on them, but props to them for winning that game. I don't have an issue with them being 1, but I think a more fitting spot for them to be at would have been number 2 and leave Texas at 1. But still, props. Great win for DeBoer. Bama actually has Georgia's number. What have they won? 9 of the last 10 games versus Georgia. It's pretty bad. Coming in at number 2, falling 1 spot, Texas. 19 first place votes. They are 5-0. They fell 1 spot. They technically didn't do anything to fall. They beat Mississippi State SEC team 35-13. They did not cover that spread, even with Texas having lost that. I mean, even with them winning that game. The thing that people aren't getting, they're saying, oh, well, Texas should have won by more. They're playing with Arch Manning, who's their backup quarterback. Quinn Ewers is not playing right now. Quinn Ewers, let's just call it what it is. He's better than Arch Manning as of right now. Yeah, he's like a 5th-year senior, but he's a lot better than Arch Manning. You're not going to score as many points without Quinn Ewers, who was top 3 in the Heisman when he got hurt. He's a first-round pick on everyone's draft boards, so you have to expect them to score less. I wouldn't ding them for that. Quinn Ewers is coming back. He's not out for that long. It's just an abdomen strain. He will probably come back this coming weekend. So why drop them from, I mean, they've been winning and playing well with their backup quarterback, shutting people down. They have a top 10 offense. They have a top 10 defense, a top 5 roster. But it all sorts itself out because Georgia's going to play Alabama and they're going to play Georgia this season. So everything always works itself out. Coming in at number 3, moved up. Well, actually, they were number 4 last week. You have the Ohio State Buckeyes. Actually, they were number 3 last week. Sorry about that. They're 4-0. They got 4 first place votes there. The Buckeyes, obviously, they had another solid start to the game. They had a little bit of a slow start versus Michigan, but they were rolling. They won it 38-17. We know who the Buckeyes are. They're kind of skating under the radar right now, which is actually probably what they want. No one's expecting too much from them. They're just sliding by. No one's really watching them. That's perfect. They're going to run through the Big Ten. They're going to get to the Big Ten championship. They're probably going to be playing Oregon, USC, someone like that. It's going to be competitive. This is a loaded roster. This is a top 5, top 3 roster. You have Will Howard, you have Junkins, Henderson, probably the best 1-2 punch at the running back position. Jeremiah Smith, as a true freshman, is elite. You have Egbuka, who's a first-round pick. You have the best defense in all of college football. They returned 8 starters from the number 3 total defense from last season. All those guys came back to win a national championship. Loaded coaching staff, Knowles, Day, Chip Kelly calling plays. They're going to go far. No issues with them being 3. Coming in at 4, Tennessee. They are 4-0. They moved up 1 spot. They didn't play this past weekend, but no issue with them going up to 4. Coming in at 5, you have Georgia, 3-1. They fell 3 spots. I don't have an issue with that. It was number 2 versus number 4. I'd have been fine if you just swapped them. Bama went 2, Georgia went 4. Putting them behind Tennessee is probably fine. Tennessee, I would say if they played them right now, Tennessee would actually probably be the favorite. They're both undefeated. I don't have an issue with Georgia going to 5. Some people wanted them moved further down. I don't think that's necessary. This is still a really good team. This is the number 2 overall roster, according to ESPN. Beck had an awful game, but the fight they showed versus now, who's the number 1 team, they came back when they were down all those touchdowns. They came back and actually took the lead. Props to them. You don't have to drop them far. If you're a Bulldogs fan, you guys are sitting at 5, so you're still perfectly positioned. Everything is still in front of you right now. Coming in at 6, the Oregon Ducks 4-0. They moved them up 2 spots. I honestly wasn't that impressed with the Oregon performance from this past week. They got the win, yes. Dylan Gabriel, he had that pick six there. He had kind of a sloppier game. He was throwing balls low, throwing balls high. I stayed up late on the East Coast. I stayed up just to watch the Oregon Ducks because I want to see how much they had improved from that Idaho game, the Boise State game. Yes, they played versus Oregon State a lot better. They showed improvement. Their defense is good. The offense still needs to get more push on the offensive line. This is an extremely talented team. Top 5, top 10 overall roster. Dylan Gabriel was the Heisman frontrunner coming into this season. We know that he can sling it. We know that he can run it. They have Johnson. They have Stewart. They have the playmakers there. They won 34-13. I wasn't that impressed with that versus an awful Bruins team. I didn't see they did anything to justify them jumping up 2 spots, especially over, should they be over Miami? I don't know. You can kind of bounce back and forth with that, but I don't have an issue with them being 6. I would have never dropped them all the way down that far anyways. What they went from 4 down to 9 or 10, and then they've been slowly working their way back up. That was not necessary. That was an overreaction. So this is probably the voters trying to fix that. Coming in at 7, we have Penn State. They are 4-0. They moved up 2 spots. Obviously, Penn State had a win versus a ranked Illinois team. They won that one 21-7. Penn State has an elite defense under Allen. We know that James Franklin has recruited this team well. You have Drew Waller, Singleton, a loaded running back room, a great wide receiver core. Drew Waller having a good year in his new scheme. They're going to have a top 10 defense. They're going to be aggressive. Penn State's one of those perennial 10-2 teams. If they go 10-2 this season, they're going to make the playoffs coming out of the Big Ten. Coming in at 8, we have 5-0 Miami falling 1 spot. Miami needs a bye week really bad. I think they have Cal this coming week for week 6. They need a bye week. They have a couple things they have to work on. Do not overreact too much versus the Virginia Tech win. It's a win. Never apologize for a win. You are one of the few 5-0 teams. A lot of these teams are 4-0 because they've had byes. Miami hasn't had a bye yet, but after the Cal game, they then have a bye. They need to work on some things, but this team is loaded. A top 10 overall roster. They have a top 10 top 10 offense. Right now, they have a top 20 defense, a top 10 offensive line, although they didn't play like it versus Virginia Tech. Cameron Ward had a sloppy game, but you had the sloppiest game you could have had. You still fought your way back. You won the game. You showed heart there. So I was not that distraught by that game as some people were. You still have Damian Martinez, Fletcher, Lyle, Arroyo, Williams, Restrepo, Horton, George Brown. This team is loaded. Playmakers everywhere, a great defense, and you're getting Bain back soon. That's going to completely change the game at the defensive line level with Barrow, Bain, Barron. Lots of playmakers there. Secondary, little questionable. Miami, they dropped 1 spot. I thought that was fine. Perfectly fine to drop them 1 spot. Coming in at 9, we have Missouri 4-0. They were on a bye. They moved up 2 spots. I don't know why they moved them up 2 spots. What did they do to move up 2 spots? I don't think Missouri is a top 10 team. I've been saying that the whole season. I said they're a very good team. Probably going to finish the season at worst 9-3, probably 10-2. They have a pretty easy SEC schedule. They can kind of skate into 10-2, outside shot to make the playoffs. Very good team. Cook, Burden, well coached. But not impressive with their workload. I have not been this whole season. Not impressed with the Boston College game, Vanderbilt game. Why are we moving them up spots? I don't see that. Coming in at 10, we have Michigan 4-1. They moved them up 2 spots. Michigan's not a top 10 team. Let's be honest. Yes, they beat USC, but they beat USC at the very end of the game. I mean, when they had that long run with Mullings not taking anything away from them. Great team, great defense. They brought back 1 starter from their national championship team. They can't throw the ball. Orgy, Warren, no one can throw the ball accurately. If you beat USC with 32, 36 passing yards, if you can't throw for 50 yards a game, you have no business being in the top 10. I just don't believe that at all. I think this is a good team, but I think they're a 9-3 at best team. Once they get deeper into Big Ten play, Buckeyes and stuff like that, they're not going to be up there. So why put them up here just to start dropping them down? I don't understand. Just because they're the national champions, whatever. I don't think that they should be top 10. Coming in at 11, the team that lost to Michigan, USC 3-1. They moved them up 2 spots. They had that win versus Wisconsin. They were down first half. They fought their way back, completely owned the second half. Miller Moss, Marks, Lane, a loaded wide receiver core. Lincoln Riley, the best play call in all of college football. And what D'Anton Lynn has done with that defense, props him. That defense was Swiss cheese last year. Very much improved this season, much improved tackling team. And they're one of those outside teams from the Big Ten that could compete for the Big Ten championship. I don't think they're going to win the Big Ten championship, but they could potentially find themselves with an outside shot to make the playoffs this season. Coming in at 12, Ole Miss 4-1. They dropped them 6 spots. Ole Miss obviously lost that heartbreaker to Kentucky. That's a kick the guy should have made. But hey, Kentucky played Georgia close, should have won that game, but Mark Stoops got conservative when it mattered most. But then they came back. They didn't lose heart. Props to Kentucky for not losing heart after missing your shot with Georgia. And then you come out and you beat another top 10 team. You beat Ole Miss. Props to you. Ole Miss, great team. Obviously, Lane Kiffin, loaded team, great running back room, great wide receiver core with Harris. They can run the ball. They're playing solid defense. They should have. They had this game, but they lost it. But Ole Miss put all their chips into the transfer portal, brought in the number one transfer portal class. Very talented roster. Everything's still in front of them, but the schedule starts getting tougher from here out. They were blowing out the scrubs, but now we're in SEC play. I think they get things back on track. That was a game that they needed to kind of wake them up because they were kind of cruising through the season. No problem with them being 12. 13, LSU, 4-1, moving up 1 spot. Obviously, they continue to handle business. They beat South Alabama, who actually has a really good offense. They beat them 42-10. It's about what I predicted them to win by. For LSU, Nussmeier, running game, wide receiver core. Chip Kelly, the defense looked bad to me. I mean, they played good versus USC, but then after that, Nichols and UCLA, they didn't necessarily play good. They're finally starting to get things back on track. We're seeing some of that development out of Blake Baker's squad on the defensive side. Very talented, deep team. Perfectly fine with them coming in at 13. Coming in at 14, Notre Dame, 4-1. They moved up 2 spots. They beat Louisville. That was a close game. They had a massive lead. They gave up the lead, but a win is a win. You beat a top 25 team that a lot of people were picking to get the upset coming into the weekend. I said that Notre Dame would win it less than one possession. That's the way things planned out. Solid win. I've been saying that Riley Leonard cannot throw the ball for 2 years since he was at Duke. The guy's a 55% completion percentage guy. I said he's not a good quarterback. A lot of people thought he was going pro. He can't throw at all. Made some great passes this past weekend. He was awful. He only had 2 touchdowns through the first 4 games. He finally got some touchdowns, finally threw the ball. He was bound to have a good game, and that's what happened this past weekend. But just based off their defense and love at running back, this is a team that can go far, but they have to run the table. With that pathetic loss to NIU, they have no conference championship. They cannot afford to be a 10-2 season without a conference championship game. They have to run the table from this point out to have a shot to make that final 12. Coming in at 15, Clemson 3-1, moving up 2 spots. Clemson's starting to roll right now. This is not the Clemson team that played Georgia. Yes, the schedule's gotten easier than playing Georgia, but Cade Klubnik, Maffa, Williams, the offense, year 2 under Riley, starting to look much improved. We know Clemson, as of right now, they have the number 7 ESPN roster talent. Defense, top 10 defense. Things are starting to gel together. Once that offense starts getting first down, that lets the defense finally catch their breath, get off the field. Clemson, second best team in the ACC right now, the true rival to Miami and vice versa. It's probably going to be one of them for that ACC championship playoff spot. Coming in at 16, we have Iowa State 4-0, moved up 2 spots. They also had a massive win versus Houston. They won that game 20-0. Iowa State, yes, they don't necessarily have the best offense, but under Matt Campbell, they're going to play solid defense. They're going to shut it down. They're going to play physical. They're going to play discipline. They're going to run downhill. That's what they continue to do. They're not blowing people out 50-0, but they're winning games. Perfectly fine with them being 16. And they're one of the highest ranked teams. I mean, they are closing up there for the top of the Big 12 right now. Coming in at 17, BYU 5-0. They moved them up 5 spots. I kind of have an issue with that. I love BYU. But you had that massive lead versus Baylor, and then you won it 34-28. As I already mentioned, never apologize for a win. But what did they do to move up 5 spots? They beat up a 2-3 Baylor team, and they let them come back from like 20 something down. That gets you moved up 5 spots. but yet Miami lost to Virginia Tech. I mean, sorry, Miami beat Virginia Tech. We dropped them. BYU beats basically the same type of talent. Baylor lets them come all the way back, barely beats them after having a multiple touchdown lead, and we move them up. So I don't have an issue with them being 17, but I think we're starting to overreact to BYU being undefeated, and now everyone's just like BYU's 5-0, move them up. Like, let's calm down, move them up to 19, 18. Let them earn their way a little higher week by week. Coming in at 18, we have Utah 4-1. They dropped them 8 spots. Utah. I'm officially done with Cam Rising. He's been Kyle Whittingham, one of the most underappreciated head coaches in the country, the third longest tenured head coach in the country. Stop saying Cam Rising is questionable to start Saturday. It's the third week. He's questionable. It's a game time decision, and he doesn't start. They roll out Wilson, who's playing well, but he's not Cam Rising. This team without Cam Rising has virtually no offense. They're stuck in the mud. With Cam Rising, they're a completely different team, night and day. But Cam Rising's in like his 15th year of college football. This guy's made so much NIL money basically off of being a backup in college because he never starts. I'm kind of getting sick of it. I was on the Cam Rising train. I've always liked him, but I'm sick of him not playing and Utah listing him as questionable every week. Cut the crap. Don't list him as questionable. How could he have been questionable 3 weeks ago and he still hasn't started? That doesn't make any sense. If it's going to be Wilson, we all know it now. At some point, he probably will play. This is the best team in the Big 12, but without Cam Rising, they're not. I'm fine with them being 18, but if he doesn't come back, it's just going to be the Utah team from last season. 7 or 8 wins, held back because the quarterback basically has a stranglehold on this team. Coming in at 19, we have Oklahoma 4-1, moving up 2 spots. Solid win this past weekend. I did pick Oklahoma to beat Auburn. One possession. That's actually how things panned out. They won that game 27-21. Solid win, with them kind of shuffling quarterbacks going back and forth. If you have, 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks, but they got the win. They're rolling out a freshman here. Jackson Arnold just hasn't panned out in Seth Littell's offense. Brent Venables, we know he's going to get turnovers. We know he's going to have a talented defense. They have the number 11 total roster talent in the nation right now, according to ESPN. Talented team, but they have a rough schedule. It gets rougher every week. They needed that win because they're going to need to pad that win total once they get deeper into SEC play. Coming in at 20, Kansas State 4-1. They moved them up 3 spots. I don't see how BYU moves up 5 spots. Kansas State beats a ranked Oklahoma State team that beats the crap out of a ranked Oklahoma State team, and they moved them up 3 spots. I don't understand that at all. But whatever. I have no issue with Kansas State being number 20. I think that's fitting since they did lose to BYU, but put BYU 1 in front of them. Put them at 19. Hold them back that 1 spot. Kansas State, though, Avery Johnson, I've been saying, he's the highest recruited quarterback in Kansas State history. Very talented quarterback. When he's on, he can sling the ball, and he's one of the best mobile quarterbacks in the nation. Giddens was running up and down that field. He doesn't have break-in speed, but he's elusive, and he cuts like no one. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. Very talented physical team, and they play defense. Coming in at 21, Boise State 3-1, moving them up 4 spots. That was an awesome win versus Washington State. I did stay up late to watch that. Janty, what does that guy do? He had 9 touchdowns coming into this game. He had, four touchdowns? He has 13 touchdowns right now through Boise's first 4 games. 13 touchdowns. So he's on pace for the regular season for 39 touchdowns. I'm not saying he's going to get 39 touchdowns, but I mean, it's ridiculous. He has like 1,000 yards rushing right now. Props to him. Can they ride him all the way to the playoffs? Yeah, actually, probably they probably can. No one can seem to tackle that guy. He's just bulldozing people, and he has the speed at the end of every single run. I love what Boise State's doing right now. They could represent the group of 5 teams. They just have to keep winning out. No one likes to play the Smurf turf team. They're always talented. They have a lot of talent here, so props to Boise State. Coming in at 22, Louisville 3-1. They dropped 7 spots to a win versus Notre Dame, dropping them 7 spots, winning to what's a top 15 team right now. I think it's a little bit of an overreaction. I'd probably drop them to 20. I think that's a perfectly fair spot. Drop them a couple spots. They did lose, but as of right now, would Louisville beat Utah? Probably. That's Utah without Cam Rising. They both have 1 loss, but nonetheless, Louisville having a strong season right now. They're going to get to play Miami. Everything's still in front of them for the ACC. That was an out-of-conference loss. If you win the ACC, you get into the playoffs. This is a very talented team. Jeff Brom knows how to work the portal, knows how to tailor his play calling to the portal players he has. Coming in at 23, undefeated. Welcome to the top 25, Indiana, 5-0. They weren't ranked. 5-0 in the Big Ten. You can't take anything away from Indiana. A lot of people wanted them in the poll last weekend when they were 4-0. They're 5-0 now. Welcome. Although I'd probably drop them to 25 coming in. Coming in at 24, we have Illinois 4-1, dropping 5 spots after losing to a top 10 team in Penn State. That's a little bit too much of a drop to me. They lost to a top 10, top 8 team, and we dropped them 5 spots. They played solid. Brett Bielema's team just doesn't have the offensive capabilities to compete with a lot of these teams. But a top 10, top 15 defense, they're talented. They run the ball. They're actually throwing the ball pretty well this season. Really good physical defense, but they just couldn't last that 4 quarters. But they still definitely deserve to be ranked. Coming in at 25 here. What is this? Like a tie at 25? Texas A&M. Yep, tied. They're 4-1. They dropped 1 spot. They did deserve to drop 1 spot. They should have lost that game to Arkansas. That's back-to-back weeks they almost lost. I think they should have dropped out of the top 25 last weekend when they barely beat Bowling Green. But if you want to leave them in there and tie them with UNLV, that's fine. So 2 top 25, 2 number 25 teams. UNLV, they lost Sloka, the quarterback, and over that NIL issue, over $100,000, and they didn't miss a beat. They put up a 50-60 burger in this past game. They are undefeated 4-0. Welcome to the top 25. That quarterback's probably pissed off right now that he left. They kept winning, and they got ranked, and now no one cares about him. But whatever. The others receiving votes, Arizona 106. Obviously, they beat Utah. If they get to 4-2, maybe they'll have a chance to get back into the top 25. They did start out the year in the top 25. Pittsburgh having a great season so far. Nebraska 30. Nebraska is going to be a team. They have a very easy first 7 games. They're probably going to find themselves back in the top 25 at some point. Boston College, Iowa. The ones dropping out, Oklahoma State. Only one team dropped out. Oklahoma State lost to Kansas State. What happened to Ollie Gordon? He had a great first quarter. They abandoned the running game. They've abandoned Ollie Gordon this season. They've pretty much gone to a pass-happy Bowman offense. But Ollie Gordon, the Doak Award winner last season, 1,700 yards, 22 touchdowns. You got to get that guy the ball. But that's our breakdown. That's our reaction to the new AP poll that just came out for Week 6. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. And thanks for watching.